We have had a situation of our business interests. There was a time in the previous councils where there was a rush to do joint ventures. There was a rush to do joint ventures. These joint ventures have legacy issues that are crippling this council. People went into joint ventures over pieces of land, over city lodges, over city meets, over city issues. And these joint ventures have all but collapsed. Some of the investors did not bring the capital that they promised to bring, but they were given land wherein they have title deeds, and they are continuing to trade under those joint ventures. We have since been worried about getting into joint ventures with anybody since that time, because council gets the wrong end of the stick. What we have are fully owned companies under council. Fully owned companies under council, which include city parking, which include referral marketing that we are trying to resuscitate. Our success story has been city parking, where the revenue is all of it accounted for and comes to council and has enabled us to buy certain yellow equipment and to do a number of road works. It could do better, but we are increasing the technology that it is using, and a whole lot of remittances are going to come. It has been useful also in the refurbishment of Rufaro Stadium, the car park, and that car park is also going to be another revenue generator. So that has been decidedly a success story. We had a nightmare story with Quarry Private Limited, where we were supposed to carry to do our quarrying for the road and the production of hot asphalt. That has not worked out successfully. We have merged City Quarry with our other sister companies so that we can reinvest in it, buy a new crusher machine, and buy a new asphalt machine, and then improve the road. So we are dealing with that. Referral marketing had all but collapsed. We were receiving zero revenue from a contingent of over 130 bars. 130 bars, some of the three or so bars were sold by the previous council, but we now are able to account for all the 130 bars. We also had a brewery that is being rented by Delta, and we are now able to account for the revenues that are coming from that real estate. Going forward, we are looking at improving the real estate that we are managing, the 126 bars, beer halls, and revitalize them and bring them to their glory. The revenue from Rufaro marketing is the revenue that built Rufaro United. So currently, Rufaro marketing is assisting in the refurbishment of the stadium, that is the toilets, the public facilities, and the inside of the stadium. And also is going to assist with the acquiring of the bucket seats once we have done the whole process. Staffing levels, we have a huge staff contingent. Our staff contingent is close to 10,000 people. In many ways, it's a big staff in relation to our city. If we improve the technology and make it a smart city, we could do with less staffing. But at the current moment, even though we say we have too many staff, we have shortages in critical areas. Our fire department, our firemen are taken every year going to the Middle East. Our municipal department, not a favorite of many these days, is also understaffed. Hence, the areas around development control, vendor control, traffic control, even congestion, the traffic lights cannot be dealt with. Issues of drain clearance, and our city has grown disproportionately to its development that we have so many areas that are lacking the waste management department. You have 2 workers trying to deal with waste at a shopping complex in Mount Pleasant or in Mavuku or and so forth. So the staff, the health personnel, we need 800. We have over 43 polyclinics. We only have 300 or so staff, and the rest we are getting locums. And Harare is the mainstay of the primary health system within Harare, if not the country. We are underpin and guarantee the various immunization programs. We underpin the various antiretroviral programs. We underpin the infectious disease programs, cholera with Wilkins and Beatrice, and a number of tents. That's why we have been able to succeed with the cholera outbreak within the city, unlike many other cities in the region. We also, the mainstay of the delivery of drugs for non-communicable diseases, the various vaccinations, and any other outbreaks that occur. We are also facilitating the birth of over 2,500 babies every month using our 13 polyclinics, and that number is increasing. To that score, we have set up a theater in Mavuku, the first of its kind, which is operating, doing cesarean operations, and these, the last count, we had done over 100, whereas people used to drive to Harare Nyatwa or Harare Hospital for such complex procedures. So there is an issue around staffing, which will be dealt with, but we will see what happens. Water, sanitation, and hygiene. The water situation is a thorn in the flesh for all the cities, and in Harare in particular. As you will recall, the last dam for Harare was built in 1976, which is Lake Manyame. And we use Lake Manyame, Lake Chivero, and the Prince Edward Waterworks. Since 1976, no new dam has been built for the greater Harare area. And we provide water on a daily basis to Norton, Rua, Chitungwiza, Epworth, and the various other new suburbs that are erupting. Chitungwiza has a population close to 1 million people and has no water source for itself. None. Rua has, but it can only do limited amounts. Norton has no water source except us. Epworth has no water source. And then all these other settlements that are erupting in rural district councils, but for all intents and purposes are in Harare. The water treatment plant that we're using was designed by Morton Jeffrey years ago. If you were to wake up, you will be surprised that it is still working. So we need a new plant for the waterworks. Our chemical situation, which is problematic, we are importing almost all chemicals. The local suppliers import sulfuric acid, they import bauxite, they import lime from as far as China. Carbon is China. Almost all the chemicals that we use are imported, yet we are billing in RTGS. We are raking up a huge debt with our chemical suppliers because of that situation. And when we pay them, the money is not enough. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and that infrastructure will need us to work together. We were heartened or happy that there's now a task force that is assisting us. And we are confident that if we put or continue putting our heads together, we will be able to deal with the water situation in Harare. It's the same with the waste management. Chenesa Harare that we implemented together with government went a long way to deal with the dump sites. But what is needed is a sustainable revolving waste management and the redesigning of our waste management processes to be able to deal with the various populations that are increased. We have introduced night shifts. We are grateful. We got 52 tractors from government, and we are now working on building the trailers so that the tractors can form the base of the collection, and the compactors will continue, and we'll try to increase them so that we are able to be on top of the situation as far as litter is concerned. We are also introducing a raft of measures relating to hygiene laws around the shops, maintenance of bars, maintenance of the fronts of the shops, and implementing the penalties for littering and clearing places like First Street and so forth to make sure that they don't remain an eyesore. And we are going to announce the more rigorous implementation of the hygiene bylaws, of which we have around 10 of them, if not more. We've got those proposals in our budget once we deal with these things. And then the sewer system, we have to increase our capacity for the fail works, build new sewer systems around the city. And these systems will then enable us to increase the megaliters, because our system is a chicken and egg situation, because we are doing it's based on a recycling. So the more we pollute Lake Chivero, the more money we need to clean the water. So it's very important that we clean the water before we return it back to our water sources. And that's an imperative that we have to do going forward. Well, the other thing was that, unfortunately, the council meetings that have not dealt with what service delivery and issues affecting council. I think that those ones we just need to remind each other. Probably the person who drafted the memo to our parent minister was in a rush, and or maybe some of these people, they get new jobs, and they enjoy putting English words one in front of the other. But you know that we have held more meetings to deal with Chenesa Harare, to deal with the water situation, to deal with the ERP. Most of our meetings that we have held, at the very least since I've come back as the mayor of Harare, have had more to do with dealing with issues of service delivery, water, refuse collection, ERP, and we have the minutes of those meetings, and we shall compile the recommendations for the public and for the ministry as to how we have dealt with those matters that require public that deal with service delivery. One of the issues that keeps getting forgotten is the issue of energy. Energy is a serious issue as far as service delivery is concerned. You must recall that City Council of Harare had its own power station, which had the capacity of producing 120 megawatts. Sometime in the 1980s, an excited ZESA took over the operation of those power stations. It is no longer producing 120 megawatts. Last time I checked, it was last year, the maximum it got to was to 15 megawatts. And this year they have indicated that they are going to abandon that power station altogether and try to find investors. Now we use over 34 megawatts for our water treatment. And they took the power station from us, and immediately the day after, we were being charged energy bills. So, and we were never given adequate compensation for that power station. And therefore now, instead of energy being a book entry, it became a real cost to us, and we keep on paying. For some reason, Bulawayo managed to convince the ZESA for it not to pay, but City of Harare is being asked to pay, and that is crippling energy. And the worst thing that happened was that energy bills used to come with the rates. So people knew the house that had not paid its rates by its electricity being switched off. Now, when they separated the energy from the city councils, that is when the city councils began to fail to collect money, because people can live with water in buckets, can forgo to pay for the road because yanga kufamba netsoka handina mota, but more often than not, people cannot live without electricity. So the moment they delinked energy from the council bill is the moment where councils started struggling. I've had discussions with the ZESA chief executive, the deputy minister of finance over these issues, and they assured us that they are going to work on it. And that is what happened with our rates and the energy. Then we have the Zinara issue lastly. The Zinara issue that has been coming out. All the money that was given to us last year was accounted for. The 2.5 billion that they'd given us. And to indicate that it has been accounted for, we received another tranche of 7 billion last week. So there's no way they would have, last week but one. So there's no way that they would have paid us had we not accounted for the previous money. Their money had been accounted a long time ago, and we were waiting for the other tranche. But then again, we've insisted that the money that is coming from Zinara last year did just barely exceeded $2 million US. This year, again, they are on track not to give us anything that exceeds $2 million. We have maintained, and we do maintain, that the number of cars in Harare are close to 800,000. Each car pays $20 US per quarter, and that should produce around 64 million US dollars that goes to Zinara. Then there is fuel levy that is paid. The last audited accounts of Zinara that we saw, the fuel levy amounted to an amount of over 60 million US dollars. That is the 2015 audited accounts. And our proposition is that most of the fuel is consumed in Harare. We have not received a remittance of US dollars from Zinara, yet we know that fuel levy is collected in US dollars. Some of the money for licenses are also paid in US dollars, but we never get a remittance in US dollars. And we get a pittance of the money that is annually paid to Zinara. We simply get 2 million every year. Shipururu shemari, shitoko shokuti kana pane munhu anoziva kugadzira maroads, anoziva kuti 2 million haina kwaikunosvika, imari yakapfupika sameya wacho weHarare. Saka toda kuti vatipewo mari yakati rebei yakainzanawo nevamwe hombarume dzinenge dziri kunze uko. So we are having this problem of the amount of remittances. The Zinara chairperson promised me a meeting last year where the mayors will meet. The minister promised a meeting last year. We are still to hold that meeting, and we will raise it with our parent ministry that meeting is urgent so that we should be able to deal with the roads. We appreciate what is happening with the roads in the city, but we also have the roads within the suburbs, and we need to work to deal with those roads. Thank you.
Right. The mayor will take a few cases because he has to write someone. So we identify yourself and your news organization.
Yes.
Mayor, I just want to get clarification in terms of your relationship. You talked about the condition by the government for it to approve the budget. We have read a lot of conditions.
Of conditions, yes.
Say they should abide with.
Well, not to my knowledge. They haven't. Our position still remains as it was. Our council has got existing resolutions that it passed well, we basically couldn't afford We understand that the Pomona dump site was declared a national project, and that money that is coming or that is being paid there is coming from the fiscus. And should they put any conditions to approve a budget, that will be unfortunate and grossly putting things that don't mix together. And from my understanding and reading of the letter, they are actually complaining about joint ventures that do not give money to council and take money to council. So I'm sure there is a common understanding there, but I stand to be corrected and guided. I've not held any conversations in regard to that issue, and we have not changed our position. That we want to comply with the Auditor General's report and the Parliamentary Committee report to restore the ERP that was there in place at that time, to reinstate the ERP that was there as a bridging ERP. And should we then do a new process, we do it in due course, and we have an exit process, and we have instructed our staff to do so. Should they continue to fail, we have referred the matter to HR, because probably maybe the particular staff involved are completely incapable of doing a simple task, that is to get an ERP for us to move the budget forward.
Yes, this one.
Isn't there any alternative, local alternative, maybe working with local companies, or maybe trying to invest in maybe cheaper and local alternatives to these chemicals?
Surprisingly, as a country, we can no longer make sulfuric acid that we make in the high school labs. You see, what happens is that you have a local company, but that local company does not make anything, okay? So I'll give you the example. Our biggest chemical is aluminum sulfate. So aluminum sulfate is made up of bauxite, sulfuric acid, and lime. We get our bauxite from Mozambique, Manica province. We get our sulfuric acid from South Africa. We get our lime from Zambia. Now these are then mixed by a local company, and then they say we are a local producer. But it's the same thing, because if you then give this company RTGS, they have to go and queue at the Reserve Bank to get the sulfuric acid, to get the bauxite, to get the lime, which they get in Mozambique. The private actor, carbon, you have to get it from China. Chlorine gas, you have to get it from South Africa. So I can go through all the chemicals in the periodic table, or the chemicals that are required. You have just one person who says, I'm the local. He's a local mixer. It's like a person who buys shoes from China, and then he comes and says, for want of it, you know how those phones do it? They buy a clone, isn't it, from China, and then out of respect of the companies, maybe I'll say they will call it P-tail, or Y-tail, Antitica. But we all know that the phone has been made in what? In China. But the person will then come to a meeting and say, I'm a local producer of what? Of cell phones. They are not a local producer. They are a local assembler of those things. And that is what is happening with our chemicals. Forget local producer. There is nothing like that as far as chemicals are concerned, even the most basic of chemicals.
Any other issues? Yes?
Yes. Well, the nanotech deal is still in play. From what I understand, there has been hiccups in terms of the payment or the accounting of the payment that was done. But how it was supposed to work was that there was an estimated cost, and they put the chlorine dioxide generators at Morton Jeffrey, and then they were supposed to then give the chemicals to then supply water, cleaner water. It's a tried and tested technology that they are using, which is being used in Botswana, South Africa. It will give us more water for the dollar, cleaner water, less smelling water, and the water will go far through our pipes, from what the scientists tell us. But unfortunately, at the current moment, their system was supposed to work with us as council pay. But when we pay, you get the forex from the Reserve Bank. There are certain papers and acquittals that ought to be done, and they are still having a polemic around those issues. Should it remain that way, then we as council will have no choice but to look at whether it is a viable way forward and create new relationships with people who can supply for a longer time in terms of proof of concept. And then once they supply for a longer time, and our stakeholders, the council, parent ministries, and everybody is happy, we then can then engage in paying. A problem with a number of Zimbabwean businesses that are local is that they want cash upfront. And we want to talk to our financiers and everybody that, look, some of these things do 3 months as proof of concept. Then we know that this thing works. Then we can convince the taxpayers and the ratepayers to invest in your technology.
So thank you very much.
You got last question?
Yeah.
Okay.